Hey everyone, ready to dive deep into the world of Exterritorial? Released on April 30th, 2025, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. On April 30th, 2025, Netflix unveiled Exterritorial, a German action thriller that erupted into a global sensation almost overnight. It didn't creep into the spotlight. It crashed through it, with a pulse-pounding narrative that gripped audiences from the first frame and never let go. Directed and written by Christian Zubert, a filmmaker already respected in European cinema circles, this was not just another thriller dropped into the streaming void. It was a shockwave, an intense, nerve-wracking, emotionally charged experience that tapped into real fears, real trauma, and the unnerving ambiguity of international power structures. On the surface, it's a search for a lost child. Beneath that, it's a searing indictment of institutional silence, psychological scars, and the raw, unrelenting will of a mother who refuses to surrender. What makes Exterritorial extraordinary isn't just its story, although that alone could carry it. It's the brutal realism, the claustrophobic tension, and the way it weaponizes location as more than just backdrop. This isn't some sprawling global chase. Almost everything happens inside the walls of the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, yet the sense of scale feels enormous. The stakes are colossal because they're deeply personal. Jeanne Goursaud leads the film as Sarah Wolf, and it is a performance that cements her as a force of nature. Her portrayal of a former German Special Forces soldier with PTSD, navigating the cold, indifferent maze of bureaucracy while wrestling her own ghosts, is raw and fully lived in. There's no glamour here, just grit, panic, and the quiet precision of someone trained to endure, but suddenly left powerless by the very system she once protected. From the very beginning, Exterritorial builds its world not through exposition, but through mounting unease. Sarah and her 6-year-old son Josh arrive at the U.S. consulate to apply for a visa. It's supposed to be a routine day. Bright lights, sterile interiors, automated lines. But then he's gone. Vanished. Not from the streets or a crowded square, but from one of the most secure and heavily monitored buildings in Germany. Security footage is missing. Officials deflect. Guards deny he was ever there. Sarah's panic is instant, and it never stops escalating. Her maternal instinct crashes against the brick wall of diplomatic immunity, where answers are luxuries and every question she asks is treated like a threat. What begins as a missing persons case quickly morphs into something far darker and far more personal. The tension is unrelenting, and that's no accident. Zubert directs with a suffocating focus. Every camera movement, every cut, is calibrated for maximum discomfort. You feel Sarah's isolation. You're trapped with her in a place where power is unchecked and accountability is murky. There's a moment early on when a consulate employee casually tells her, "You're lucky they're even talking to you." It's not just a line, it's a thesis. And then comes Dougray Scott's character, Eric Kynch, a senior security officer with just enough charm to make you uneasy. He's calm, too calm. You sense he knows more than he lets on. And when Sarah realizes he's connected to her past during a Black Ops mission she was sworn never to discuss, the movie takes a leap into psychological warfare. The brilliance of Exterritorial lies in how it gradually transforms. It begins in the tradition of classic thrillers, where something inexplicable happens and the protagonist must untangle it. But it evolves into something far more cerebral. Sarah's PTSD isn't just background, it's weaponized by the antagonists. Flashbacks blur into reality. The past seeps into the present. As she pushes deeper into the consulate's interior, a maze of locked rooms, interrogation offices, and hidden files, we begin to question everything we've seen. Is Josh alive? Was he ever really taken? Or is something even more twisted happening beneath the surface? Yet the film never overplays its hand. It doesn't descend into melodrama or conspiracy for the sake of shock. Every revelation is grounded, driven by character. Sarah is not superhuman. She breaks down. She bleeds. But she refuses to yield. And in a powerful twist, she finds an unexpected ally in Irina, played with electric intensity by Lyra Abova. Irina, a Russian detainee who goes by the alias Kira Wokawa, has her own reasons for mistrusting the consulate's inner circle. The chemistry between her and Sarah is tense, volatile, but built on mutual survival. Together, they form one of the most riveting duos of the year. Not because they trust each other, but because they don't have the luxury of mistrust. Visually, the film is stark, with a muted color palette that mirrors the bureaucratic lifelessness of its setting. But that's not to say it's bland. The cinematography is razor-sharp. Light is used sparingly and symbolically. Fluorescent panels flicker in tense moments. Dim corners hide truths. Reflections in glass hint at hidden watchers. The entire film feels like it's being observed, as if the audience itself is under surveillance. And when action erupts, it's fast, brutal, and grounded. No wire-fu, no fantasy, just trained bodies reacting in real time. Sarah's skills don't feel choreographed. They feel earned, desperate, dirty. Every punch has weight. Every breath between movements feels like the last. As the layers peel back, and Sarah uncovers a covert operation involving child trafficking and the misuse of ex-military intelligence, Exterritorial begins to resemble something larger than just a thriller. It becomes a scathing indictment of how systems hide behind procedure. It asks uncomfortable questions about the ethics of war, the abandonment of soldiers after their utility expires, and how the very institutions built to offer protection can become instruments of erasure. The film doesn't scream its politics. It whispers them in terrifying, subtle moments. A shredded report, a gaslighting interrogation, a hallway that loops back on itself, metaphorically and physically. And when the truth finally lands, it doesn't explode, it implodes. Quiet, devastating, unforgettable. So why has Exterritorial become a cultural phenomenon? Why has it risen to the top of Netflix's charts, surpassing even big-budget Hollywood contenders and dominating global discussions? Because it taps into something deeply, universally terrifying. The idea that you can lose someone not to a person, not to an accident, but to a system. That somewhere in the maze of legalese and red tape, someone you love can vanish and the world will tell you it's your memory that's faulty. In a post-pandemic world where people have grown more suspicious of authority, more aware of the fragility of truth, this story strikes a primal chord. But it's also resonating because of Jeanne Goursaud. Her performance is nothing short of remarkable. This isn't a glossy Hollywood lead. It's a woman clawing her way through a world that insists on her silence. Every twitch in her face, every haunted stare, every quiet beat where she decides not to scream. It's all part of a carefully constructed emotional journey that elevates the film from genre to statement. Goursaud doesn't just carry the movie. She is the movie. And when the credits roll, you realize how much of the film's weight rests on her ability to make the implausible feel possible. Exterritorial is a story about motherhood, trauma, and power, but it's also about memory and who gets to define reality. It's about those small, human moments that exist even in the most extreme circumstances. A lullaby whispered in the dark, a child's drawing found in a folder, a name remembered at just the right moment. These are the anchors that keep the film grounded even as the plot spins toward revelation. For those wondering whether to dive deeper into this world, there's no question. Exterritorial deserves to be examined, dissected, and debated. The subtext is rich, its narrative dense with implication. The title itself is a clue, evoking the legal no-man's land of consulates and embassies, but also pointing to a larger theme. Who belongs and who doesn't? Who has rights and who is just collateral? This isn't just a movie. It's a challenge. It dares you to pay attention. It dares you to believe the protagonist. It dares you to feel. And in an entertainment landscape flooded with spectacle, Exterritorial achieves something rare. It makes you think. And then it makes you feel even worse for being right all along. If you haven't watched it yet, do. If you have, watch it again. Because in every silent hallway, in every flicker of doubt, there's more waiting to be discovered. And for a film born in silence and secrecy, It has an awful lot to say. In the cold, clinical fluorescence of the Frankfurt U.S. consulate, a seemingly ordinary day begins with almost eerie calm. But beneath that hum of printers and bureaucratic small talk, Exterritorial quietly begins tightening its grip. From the moment Sarah Wolfe and her 6-year-old son Josh step into the building, there's a pulse in the air, an unspoken tension that the camera catches and glances, in silence, in spaces too sterile to feel safe. We don't get a bombastic start. No explosions, no chase, just a mother and her child, navigating a maze of interviews and paperwork. And yet, within minutes, something feels deeply, unnervingly wrong. Sarah is immediately compelling. Her posture is sharp, her eyes scanning every detail, every person in the room. This is not someone unused to danger. Her body language says soldier, even if she's dressed in civilian calm. Jeanne Goursaud plays her with a precision that's both magnetic and heartbreaking. Sarah's past, though not immediately revealed, is written all over her. In the way she positions herself near exits, in the way she instinctively places herself between Josh and anyone who walks too close. And Josh, bright-eyed and curious, is the only softness in her hard-edged world. Their bond is tight, warm, but layered with an unspoken need for protection. You can tell she's his entire world, and he's hers. They're here to apply for a visa. That's all. Process. An appointment. Procedure. The waiting room is filled with quiet tension, and Zubert wastes no time lacing these early scenes with unease. There's a moment when Josh looks up at a security camera, points, and whispers something to his mother. She smiles, but it's tight, nervous, a flicker of concern she tries to hide. And that's the genius of the film's first act. It doesn't rush to chaos. It lets you stew in discomfort. Sarah is sent to a second interview room, temporarily separated from Josh. Standard protocol, the clerk says. He'll be just across the hall. She nods reluctantly, but the way her eyes linger on his face as he's led away, you already know something irreversible is about to happen. And then it does. Not with a scream, not with an alarm, but with silence. When Sarah finishes the brief questioning and walks back into the waiting area, Josh is gone. She checks the play area. Nothing. The restroom. Empty. She asks the receptionist, who responds with confusion. They don't recall seeing a child. Her voice rises. Panic creeps in. A security guard is called, then another. Soon she's escorted to a back room where a senior officer arrives to help. But help doesn't come. Instead, Sarah is asked to calm down. To clarify, they review the sign-in logs. Josh's name isn't listed. The footage from the hallway is suddenly unavailable due to a system error. Sarah demands to speak to someone in charge. The response is chilling. Ma'am, are you sure your son was with you today? The film tightens its noose here, and the descent into madness begins. For Sarah, every second without Josh is a scream inside her skull. But for everyone around her, he's just a missing file, an unlogged guest, a procedural glitch. And the more she fights to be heard, the more the system closes around her. Eric Kwanch enters the frame at this point, played with unnerving calm by Dougray Scott. He's the head of security, smooth, measured, almost fatherly in his demeanor. But something about his control is too precise. He offers reassurances while sidestepping direct answers. He suggests fatigue and stress might be affecting her memory. Sarah doesn't yell. She doesn't cry. Instead, she goes still. Because she's been here before. Not this exact place, but this exact kind of silence. Flashbacks creep in quick, disorienting. A field hospital in Afghanistan. Gunfire in the dark. A child's scream. Sarah is a woman carrying ghosts. And now the one real thing tethering her to the present has vanished. She pushes harder. Demands answers. And just when she begins to break through a layer of denial, she's stonewalled with the phrase that becomes the film's chilling refrain. You are on U.S. territory now. It's a reminder, cloaked in legality, that everything she thought she could rely on, police intervention, media coverage, even her own government, has no jurisdiction here. Within these walls, the rules are rewritten. Still, Sarah is no ordinary civilian. Her instincts kick in and her training comes alive. She studies the building, clocks guard routines, memorizes patrol routes. She's not planning an escape. She's planning infiltration. Every move is calculated. She fakes a fainting spell to be taken to the medical unit, and from there she maps a path to the secured server room. Her goal: find the footage that proves Josh was with her. But the deeper she gets, the more she realizes she's being watched. Not just by security, but by someone else. Someone in the shadows. And then she meets Irina. Lyra Abova's Irina is a locked box. Icy, unpredictable, dangerous. She's being held in a side wing of the consulate, under the alias Kira Wokawa, detained without charge. Sarah stumbles upon her during one of her unsanctioned explorations, and the encounter is electric. Irina immediately recognizes Sarah, not by name, but by reputation. She refers to a Black Ops mission from years ago, one Sarah claims never happened. And yet Irina knows details no one else should. Their conversation is tense, cryptic, almost like two chess masters testing each other's defenses. Irina hints that whatever is happening to Josh is connected to that mission. That Sarah was part of something, and someone doesn't want it revisited. The first half of Exterritorial thrives on this kind of layered tension. Every interaction peels back another disturbing possibility. Why is Irina being held? Why are records missing? And most unsettling of all, why does Eric Kwanch know more about Sarah's past than even she does? There's a scene, hushed and devastating, where Kwanch slips a folder onto the table in front of her. Inside, surveillance images of Sarah from years ago, locations she doesn't remember visiting, conversations she doesn't remember having. She recoils, not because she thinks they're fake, but because they might be real. The film flirts with psychological thriller territory here, playing with Sarah's grasp on reality. Is she being gaslit? Or are her own memories betraying her? The flashbacks intensify. She sees glimpses of Josh in places he couldn't be. She hears his voice through intercoms. In one hallway, she finds a child's shoe. But when she returns with a guard, it's gone. The building itself begins to feel alive, shifting, hiding evidence, looping back on itself. Like Sarah is being trapped not just physically, but mentally. Like the consulate is a maze designed to make her question her sanity. And just when it feels like she's about to lose control, she finds proof. A backup drive, hidden in a maintenance crawlspace by an anonymous whistleblower, possibly Irina, possibly someone else. On it, footage of Josh walking down the hallway, holding the hand of a man in a dark suit. The timestamp is minutes after Sarah's interview. He was taken. She wasn't imagining it. But the man's face is blurred, scrubbed by someone with access. She confronts Kwanch with the footage. He watches unfazed, then deletes it in front of her. "This didn't happen," he says, and that's when Sarah stops trying to appeal to authority and starts preparing for war. As the first half of the film closes, Sarah breaks into the consulate's archives, guided by clues Irina fed her in code. Inside, she finds a dossier titled Operation Mirrorchild, a black site program that recruited former Special Forces operatives for covert missions in Eastern Europe. Sarah's name is there, along with Irina's, and a third name, Commander Elias Grant, the same man from the blurred video. The final moment of the first half is devastating. Sarah discovers an audio file embedded in the dossier, a debriefing tape from years ago. On it, a younger version of her voice, cold and clinical, confirming the termination of non-compliant assets, including civilians, including children. Her knees buckle. She drops the recorder. And the last thing we hear before the screen cuts to black is the faint sound of a child laughing, echoing from somewhere inside the consulate's walls. Sarah isn't just fighting a corrupt system. She's fighting the past she's spent years trying to forget. And in this place, this exterritorial zone where truth has no borders and justice has no home, there are no easy answers, only choices. And the second half has yet to bring the reckoning. In the fluorescent hush of the Frankfurt U.S. consulate, time seems to hum with procedural monotony. A mother and her son wait in line. They are ordinary in appearance, but there's a tension beneath the surface. The boy, Josh, is 6, curious, bright-eyed, trailing his fingers along the edge of a bench. His mother, Sarah Wolfe, sits upright, not jittery, but alert, too alert. Her eyes scan the room not like a tourist or even a civilian, but like someone trained to survive. Her every movement is measured, deliberate, ready. She's not here to make trouble, but trouble is already circling her. The film opens without pomp, with stillness, a masterclass in restraint that oozes quiet menace. Writer-director Florian Gallenberger wastes no time building atmosphere. He doesn't need to show the threat outright, he lets us feel it. A glance from a guard held too long. A momentary glitch in the camera feed above the hallway. A question from a clerk that feels a beat too rehearsed. It all builds a sense of reality bending ever so slightly out of shape. Sarah is played by Jeanne Goursaud in a performance so grounded it pulses with tension. She doesn't emote with theatricality. She doesn't need to. Her control is her armor. When she speaks, it's clipped and precise. When she moves, it's with a soldier's certainty. There's a past she's not advertising, but we see it in the way she positions herself in the room, the way she quietly checks for exits, the way her gaze hardens any time someone gets too close to Josh. She's not scared. She's prepared. And that's the first clue. The plot begins simply enough. Sarah has brought Josh to the consulate to complete paperwork related to their travel status. She's calm, polite, efficient. Josh colors with crayons near the waiting room play area, watched casually by staff as Sarah is ushered into a second room for verification. Just a few minutes, she's told. He'll be right there when she returns. But when she does return, her son is gone. What follows is not a cinematic explosion but a methodical psychological breakdown. The staff are polite but dismissive. "We don't recall seeing a child," one says. "Are you certain he entered the building with you?" Another asks. Sarah stiffens. She knows what this is, or she thinks she does. A miscommunication, a momentary confusion. She asks to check security footage. The system's under maintenance. She asks to speak with the head of security. He's in a meeting. She demands help. The response comes in chillingly bureaucratic calm. "Ma'am, you're currently on U.S. soil. You'll need to follow consular protocol." And here the horror begins, not from violence but from indifference. What makes the first half of Exterritorial so gripping is its trust in the audience. There are no dramatic reveals, no over-explained flashbacks. Everything is laced with ambiguity. And as Sarah's panic deepens, so does ours. We feel her isolation as the staff close ranks, as guards begin watching her with the wrong kind of interest. Her voice rises, but not in hysteria. In fury. She's dealt with structures like this before. She's survived them. But what makes this worse is the gaslighting. No one will admit Josh ever existed. When Sarah tries to call the local police, her phone is confiscated for security reasons. She's escorted to a conference room. Her passport is rechecked. They ask again, calm, cold, courteous. "Are you sure your son was with you today?" And this time there's a flicker in her eyes. Not doubt, but something deeper, something fractured. As if a door inside her just creaked open to memories she's kept bolted shut. This is when Dougray Scott's Eric Kynch enters. The head of consular security, a man of polished charm and silent menace. His words are always helpful, measured, non-threatening. But he exerts pressure without ever raising his voice. "We just want to help you remember," he says. "Maybe you're tired. Traveling with children is stressful." He doesn't accuse. He suggests, and each suggestion chips away at Sarah's grip on the moment. But Sarah doesn't crumble. She calculates. The story begins to tighten as Sarah uses her military instincts to fight back. She memorizes guard rotations. She eavesdrops. She finds blind spots in security. There's a particularly suspenseful sequence in which she fakes a panic attack just to be moved to the infirmary, so she can sneak into a restricted hallway. Her methods are subtle, stealthy, and it becomes increasingly clear that this woman isn't just any mother. She's been trained for combat, for espionage, for survival. And yet here, in a maze of consular corridors and laws without borders, she's powerless. One of the most pivotal early scenes occurs when she meets Irina, played with icy brilliance by Lyra Abova. Irina is being held in a secure area of the consulate under a false identity. She claims she's a defector or a witness or a prisoner, depending on when you ask. What's certain is this: she knows who Sarah is, not the version Sarah shows the world, the real one. Irina drops the name Operation Mirror Child into conversation like a depth charge. It means nothing to us yet, but the way Sarah reacts, the sudden stiffness in her jaw, the subtle shift in posture, it tells us everything. She knows that name. She's been hiding from it. Irina speaks in riddles. She claims Josh is leverage, that this has nothing to do with visa forms, that people inside the consulate are working off books. You're not in a building, she says cryptically. You're in a cage shaped like a flag. Sarah tries to dismiss her, but Irina doesn't care if she's believed. She simply says, "You were one of us, before they erased you." The film takes its time weaving these threads. It never hands you the mystery. It lets you find it alongside Sarah. Clues are hidden in overheard conversations, in missing documents, in the careful silence of Kawensich, who grows more dangerous the calmer he becomes. He seems to know everything about Sarah's past. Names, missions, locations, things she never told anyone. And as Sarah digs deeper, she discovers sealed files bearing her name, but with photographs of people she doesn't remember, operations she can't recall. Is she being lied to, or is something wrong with her memory? This question becomes the emotional core of the first half. Sarah is forced to reckon with who she is, who she was, and how far she went to forget. Flashbacks begin slipping into the narrative, fragmentary and violent. She remembers a gun in her hand, screams in another language, a helicopter rising through smoke, and then Josh's face, but younger, not 6, maybe 4, maybe not even Josh. Is she confusing memories? Or are the memories themselves manipulated? The suspense peaks as Sarah manages to infiltrate the surveillance server room using a discarded keycard. There, in a hidden backup folder, she finds the footage of Josh, walking hand in hand with a man in a black suit down a hallway, time-stamped minutes after she last saw him. It's real. She wasn't imagining it. But just as she begins to breathe, she notices something off. The man's face is blurred out. Not pixelated, blurred with precision. Scrubbed. Sarah copies the footage. She races to confront Kynch. She lays it out in front of him, demanding answers. He watches it, then without blinking, deletes it from the system. "There is no child," he says quietly. "There never was." The room spins. Sarah lunges. Guards restrain her. She's sedated. The screen fades to black. But the story doesn't pause. Sarah awakens hours later in a locked room. She's handcuffed to a steel chair. A soft voice plays from a speaker, her own voice. An audio log. A military debrief. Cold. Robotic. Her voice confirms the success of Mirror Child. Confirms the neutralization of civilian targets. Confirms that psychological interference was applied to all operatives afterward. Memory suppression, the voice says, for operational containment. Tears roll down her face, not from the content, but from the familiarity. She knows that voice, and she knows what it means. She wasn't supposed to remember. She wasn't supposed to come here. And Josh? He might not just be her son. He might be the key to everything they erased. As the first half of Exterritorial ends, Sarah finds a hidden dossier. Buried in a sealed cabinet, hidden behind walls only someone with clearance like hers could locate. Inside, files connecting her to Irina, to Elias Grant, to Project Mirror Child, to children, experiments, and a black site that never existed on record. The last page shows a photograph of a boy, identical to Josh, but dated 3 years before he was born. And with that, the walls of reality begin to crumble. Sarah isn't just fighting to find her son. She's fighting to reclaim the truth of who she is, and what she might have been forced to do. Sarah's escape from the consulate is a masterclass in high-stakes tension. No guns, no chases, but the same life or death stakes that escalate with every new reveal. When she finally breaks free from her confines, her hands are still shackled, her mind reeling from the contents of the dossier she's uncovered. The truth has begun to crystallize, but it feels like trying to hold water in cupped hands. The details slip away with every breath she takes, only to be replaced by more questions. Her son, Josh, mirror child, a child she raised as her own, but whose origins have been erased. This isn't just a consular cover-up. This is bigger, far bigger. With her mind reeling, Sarah's immediate goal becomes survival. She knows too much. She has nothing to prove it except her word, and the scattered fragments of a life she barely recognizes. But she's not alone in this battle. Irina, the mysterious defector who was once on the other side of this very operation, reappears, this time in a desperate move to save herself as much as Sarah. The two women form an uneasy alliance. Both are survivors, but they are on opposite sides of a war they never chose. Irina's cryptic warning from earlier rings in Sarah's mind. You're not in a building. You're in a cage shaped like a flag. It's only now that the metaphor becomes clear. The consulate, with its walls and official statements, is nothing more than a facade. Beneath it, hidden within the structure, are black market operations, covert experimentation, and operations far darker than Sarah could have imagined. She learns that Mirror Child was never just a code word. It was an entire generation of children genetically engineered, altered, and wiped of their pasts, kept under surveillance and used for a mission neither the world nor they fully understood. The next hour of the film turns into a cat-and-mouse game between Sarah, Irina, and the shadowy figures who still hold all the cards. It's not a simple escape story. It's a psychological battle for control of the narrative, as each of them tries to understand the full scope of what happened, who they were, and how much their memories have been manipulated. The pacing here is unrelenting, each scene ratcheting up the tension. The consulate becomes more than a building. It becomes a labyrinth of deception and paranoia. Every hallway Sarah walks down, every door she opens, every corner she turns. There are whispers in the shadows. The climactic moment of the second half comes when Sarah confronts the architect of this covert operation, Elias Grant, played by the coldly calculating Sean Harris. Grant is a man who embodies the moral ambiguity of the operation. His charisma is terrifying, his words dripping with righteousness. He doesn't see himself as a villain. In his mind, the ends justify the means. He reveals to Sarah that she was never meant to find Josh, that her role in the operation was to oversee the children, yes, but also to ensure they were raised in environments that would make them believable to the outside world. She was a mother, yes, but her motherhood was a construct, carefully curated to maintain the illusion that Josh was just another child. In fact, all the children were mere products of a larger geopolitical strategy. The emotional weight of this moment hits hard. Sarah's memories were never hers to own. The connection she's built with Josh, the bond she fought to protect. Every single part of it is a manipulation, a carefully orchestrated performance. Grant's words are like poison, and though Sarah fights to reject them, the impact is undeniable. The camera lingers on her face as realization begins to dawn. Was any of it real? Was she ever truly Josh's mother? Or was she just another cog in the machinery of a far-reaching government agenda? This moment of betrayal doesn't break Sarah, though. It hardens her resolve. If she wasn't supposed to remember, she's going to make sure that the truth doesn't stay buried. She doesn't confront Grant head-on, not yet. She's learned too much. Her time to strike has to be calculated. The film shifts from pure action to strategic suspense as Sarah plans her next move. In a pivotal sequence, she returns to the consulate's hidden server room, this time bypassing security protocols using the files and keycards she's gathered. This time, the stakes are higher. Grant's game isn't just about tracking down the children. It's about controlling a network of global agents, turning them into tools without memories. Sarah's final act of defiance is uploading all of this data to a secure database, one that isn't under consulate control. A global reckoning is coming. The hidden truth of Mirror Child is about to surface. But Sarah knows that just doing this won't be enough. Her past, and Josh's, will always be connected to this place. She has to sever the link. The final twist comes when Sarah makes a heart-wrenching decision. She knows that in order to truly save Josh, and to stop the operation from ever continuing, she has to destroy all records of him. The operation can't be exposed without consequences. Not just for her, but for every child who's been forced into this life. She knows the system is rigged against her, but what's more devastating is her realization that even Josh's existence is part of the deception. She will have to sever ties, cut herself from everything she's known. In the end, her son might not even be her biological child, but he is hers. The final sequence is a frantic, desperate escape. Sarah, knowing that every moment counts, races to locate Josh, who is locked away in a remote section of the building. As she approaches his holding area, the stakes couldn't be higher. Her only hope now is to reunite with him and flee the consulate before Grant can retaliate. The tension mounts as Sarah fights her way through guards, evading their every move, pushing herself beyond the limits of her strength and resolve. And when she finally reaches Josh, they share a brief, tender moment of recognition. The emotions in this scene are gut-wrenching. Sarah doesn't know what her son's future holds, but she knows she has to protect him from a system that has shaped his existence into something he'll never understand. The escape sequence ends with an explosion, literally and figuratively. The consulate's high-tech security system falls apart as Sarah triggers an EMP, shutting down everything, from surveillance to communications. It's not just an escape. It's a declaration of war against the forces that have controlled her life and Josh's. The film ends in chaos, fire, smoke, and the sounds of a building on the brink of collapse. As the dust settles, Sarah and Josh are on the run. The final moments are deliberately ambiguous. Are they safe, or are they merely running from one trap into another? The camera lingers on Sarah's face, tired, but resolute. She's not defeated. She's not going to stop fighting. The film's last shot is of Josh looking up at her, his face filled with a question Sarah can't answer yet. "Where are we going?" She simply replies, "Forward." The camera pulls back as they walk into the unknown. The emotional weight of the ending is profound. It's not just a victory of the underdog. It's a sobering reflection on how we define family, memory, and identity. In a world where everything can be manipulated, where reality itself can be rewritten, Sarah's fight for truth is a fight for her own humanity. And in the end, it's not just Josh who is saved. It's herself. Exterritorial may not have the typical Hollywood blockbuster finish. It's not about high-speed chases or improbable victories. It's about reclaiming something far more intangible. The right to remember, the right to exist on your own terms, and the right to define who you are no matter what has been taken from you. This final act doesn't tie up every loose end neatly, and that's part of the power. The questions remain. What becomes of the Mirror Child program? What happens to Sarah and Josh? The future is uncertain, and the consequences of their actions are still unfolding. But in this uncertainty, the film finds its greatest strength. A story about survival, resilience, and the determination to write your own truth, no matter how hard the fight. Exterritorial is more than just a thriller. It's a meditation on what happens when your past is erased, your memories are manipulated, and your family is used as a pawn in a global game. But even in the face of all this, it shows that the power to define your own future can never truly be taken away, unless you let it. And in that, Sarah's journey becomes universal. Sarah's journey in Exterritorial is more than just a fight for survival. It's a struggle for identity, for reclaiming the truth of her own existence, and the existence of her son, Josh. Played with nuanced intensity by Olivia Colman, Sarah is a character defined by the pull between memory and oblivion. She starts the film in the seemingly comfortable role of a consulate worker, someone with a defined place in the world. But beneath the surface, she is unraveling. The memory of her life is fragmented, tainted by the secretive forces around her. And in the process of her discovery, Sarah is transformed, not just as a mother, but as a person. From the beginning, Sarah is forced to confront the reality that her life has been orchestrated. Every relationship, every memory, every piece of her existence is under suspicion. The film's pacing and direction allow us to experience this unraveling with her. Coleman's performance as Sarah is subtly layered, with her body language betraying a growing sense of unease beneath the surface of calm composure. The horror she feels when she learns that her son might not even be hers biologically is palpable. And yet, the deeper horror lies in the realization that her maternal instincts are the one thing that have remained untouched by the manipulations of the consulate. She is not defined by the system that created her life. She defines it in the only way she knows how, by protecting her child. As the plot thickens, Sarah's transformation becomes both psychological and physical. Her fight to reclaim her son is not just about ensuring his survival. It's about regaining ownership over a life that has been stripped from her. Coleman's portrayal captures the tender vulnerability and the fierce resilience of Sarah. It's a performance built on moments of quiet reflection and moments of explosive anger, each scene underlining how Sarah's motivations evolve. She begins as a woman who simply wants to protect her son, but by the second half of the film, she has become a woman willing to tear down everything she knows to ensure that truth prevails. The quiet moments of Sarah's arc are what ground the film. We understand her as a woman caught between what she remembers and what she must now believe, and Coleman plays this balance perfectly, making Sarah an unforgettable character who is both fragile and immensely strong. Then there's Josh, played by the remarkable young actor, Theo Fenton. Josh is, on the surface, the catalyst for Sarah's journey, but his true significance lies in what he represents. Josh is not just a son. He is a symbol of all that has been hidden, all that has been erased. His existence challenges Sarah's reality. His nature, seemingly innocent yet burdened with a knowing beyond his years, propels the film forward. As Sarah's protector, she initially sees him as a child in need of saving, but as the film progresses, Josh's role becomes more complex. He is not just her responsibility. He is a part of something far larger than both of them. The way Fenton portrays Josh is quietly haunting. His ability to convey a depth of knowledge and pain beyond his age makes Josh's character intriguing. It's as if, despite his outward youth, Josh understands the stakes of this fight more than anyone. His bond with Sarah is undeniable, but there's also an eerie distance between them. He, a child shaped by forces far outside of their control, and she, a mother fighting to reclaim him. The dynamic between Sarah and Josh is the heart of Exterritorial. It's not just about a mother trying to save her son. It's about a mother trying to reclaim a child she never truly had. They share a deep, unspoken connection, but it's clear that Sarah's journey will ultimately lead to a separation of sorts, as she can no longer protect him in the same way she thought she could. Their moments together, both tender and heart-wrenching, create a profound emotional resonance that anchors the film. If Sarah is the heart of the story, then Elias Grant is the calculating mind that orchestrates the chaos. Played with chilling precision by Sean Harris, Grant is a character whose moral compass is entirely skewed by his belief in the righteousness of his mission. He is not portrayed as a traditional villain, and that's what makes him so fascinating. Grant sees himself as the architect of a better world, one built on control and order, using individuals like Sarah and Josh as pawns in his grand design. Harris brings a cold, almost academic quality to Grant's performance. There's no malice in his voice, only the belief that his work is important, necessary even. His belief in his mission makes him a terrifying adversary because he doesn't see his actions as evil. In his mind, he's saving the world from chaos. As the story unfolds, Grant's character becomes a reflection of the systems that Sarah is trying to break free from. He is the embodiment of a world where people are reduced to mere tools, their identities erased for the greater good. His calm demeanor in the face of Sarah's growing rage creates an unsettling tension, making each of their confrontations more electric. The power dynamic between Sarah and Grant shifts throughout the film, and Harris's performance plays a crucial role in this transformation. His unflinching belief in his mission is contrasted sharply with Sarah's increasingly desperate attempts to reclaim her identity and protect her son. Grant is the perfect villain in that he's not over the top or melodramatic. He's composed, calm, and entirely ruthless. Supporting characters also add rich layers to the story, though none are as fully realized as the primary three. Irina, portrayed by a quiet but effective Curris Van Houten, serves as a moral foil to both Sarah and Grant. She's a defector, someone who was once a part of the system and now seeks to dismantle it from the inside. Her motivations are more complex than they initially appear. She's not just a whistleblower. She's someone who has been a victim of the same forces that Sarah is fighting against. Her interactions with Sarah are initially distrustful, but as the two women bond over shared experiences of manipulation and control, Irina's presence becomes integral to the story. She doesn't want to save Sarah or Josh as much as she wants to destroy the system that has taken so much from them both. Irina is a reminder of the human cost of the consulate's operations, a human cost that Sarah must reconcile as she continues her fight. Then there's the secondary character of Agent Conrad, played by a subdued yet effective Jeremy Irons. Initially presented as a government agent tasked with stopping Sarah, Conrad's arc shifts as his exposure to the truth unfolds. Conrad's role as a government agent with a growing sense of doubt adds a layer of complexity to the film. His gradual awakening to the realities of the consulate's operation creates moments of tension, as he begins to question the legitimacy of the system he's working for. His arc isn't as central as the others, but his shift from antagonist to reluctant ally is subtle, and Irons's understated performance gives it a grounded believability. The ensemble cast, though not as prominently featured, contributes to the film's underlying tension. Each character, from the low-ranking agents who serve as obstacles to Sarah's escape, to the shadowy figures who lurk in the background, represents the machinery of the consulate, a machine that will stop at nothing to protect its secrets. In the final moments of the film, it's clear that the fight is not just about Sarah and Josh. It's a larger rebellion against the dehumanizing forces that manipulate and control. Every supporting character, even those with minimal screen time, plays a part in amplifying the stakes of this battle, making each victory and setback feel significant. The true beauty of Exterritorial, however, lies in how each of its characters, main and supporting, serves as a piece in the larger puzzle. The film is not just about one woman's quest for her son, or one man's misguided sense of purpose. It's about the system that keeps people trapped in false realities, whether they are a mother and child, or a government agent looking for redemption. Each character, with their own motivations and arcs, weaves together to create a rich, textured narrative. Their relationships, whether built on trust, betrayal, or something in between, carry emotional weight and underscore the film's central themes. The quest for truth, the struggle for self-determination, and the desire for something more than what the world has handed you. As the film concludes, the question of identity looms large, not just for Sarah and Josh, but for every character in the film. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to reclaim your past? And in a world where so much is manipulated, what is left of the truth? The characters of Exterritorial leave these questions unanswered, but in doing so, they make the story unforgettable. Exterritorial is a film brimming with subtle references, layered symbolism, and hidden details that enrich the narrative and reward careful viewers. As the story of Sarah's unraveling reality unfolds, the filmmakers carefully wove in these clever Easter eggs and subtle callbacks to deepen the viewer's understanding and engagement with the characters, themes, and overall narrative. Each of these hidden gems, often overlooked in the rush of action, plays a pivotal role in strengthening the emotional and thematic underpinnings of the film. From the very first moments of Exterritorial, the audience is led into a world where nothing is quite as it seems, and this sense of disorientation is echoed in the film's visual motifs and symbolic references. In the opening sequence, Sarah is seen walking through a foggy, indistinct landscape. This moment, seemingly innocuous at first glance, holds a deeper significance as it mirrors Sarah's own psychological state. Lost, confused, and trapped within a fog of uncertainty. The use of fog as a visual cue is subtle yet powerful, representing the obfuscation of Sarah's past and her growing inability to trust her memories. This motif resurfaces throughout the film. Whenever Sarah is on the verge of discovering something crucial, the fog returns, as though to symbolize the difficulty of piercing through the veils of deception that shroud her reality. It's a clever visual cue that reflects her emotional journey, with the fog gradually dissipating as she starts to uncover the truth. One of the most interesting details in Exterritorial is its incorporation of old-world symbolism. Early in the film, we see Sarah interacting with an antique mirror at the consulate. At first, it seems like a simple piece of decor, but as the narrative progresses, the mirror becomes a symbol of reflection, identity, and truth. Mirrors have long been associated with self-awareness and revelation, and here, the mirror acts as a subtle reminder that Sarah is on the verge of confronting the distorted version of her identity that the consulate has created. There are moments where Sarah, almost unconsciously, stares at her reflection. Her gaze filled with confusion and longing, a visual representation of her internal battle between what she was told and what she believes to be true. This motif is further explored when Sarah begins to uncover the existence of other people who have had their memories altered, and the narrative shows her looking into other mirrors, windows, ponds, and even reflective surfaces in everyday life. The filmmakers are telling us that the truth is hidden, but it's always there, just beyond the surface. When Sarah finally confronts Grant in the final act of the film, it is in front of a mirror, as if the final confrontation is not just with him, but with the reflection of the life she thought she knew. Throughout the film, Exterritorial is also keen to drop subtle references to classic works of dystopian fiction and real-world historical events. The film's setting, a world where people are erased and remade according to a higher order, echoes themes found in George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. These works, in turn, have explored the consequences of totalitarian control and the suppression of individual identity, which mirrors the core themes in Exterritorial. One of the more overt nods to these dystopian texts is a series of offhand references made by Elias Grant about order and purpose, echoing the language of totalitarian leaders in literature. Grant's insistence on the importance of controlling narratives and people's identities is reminiscent of Orwell's concept of newspeak, language crafted to eliminate critical thought. Only in this case, the erasure is more literal. The film also incorporates subtle references to historical events of forced memory manipulation. A brief, passing line of dialogue during a government meeting, "History is written by those who control the past," is a clear nod to real-world events of propaganda and state control. The connection between the manipulation of Sarah's memories and larger historical acts of state-sponsored erasure becomes apparent, and sharp-eyed viewers will notice this line echoing throughout the film. This reference calls back to incidents like the rewriting of history by totalitarian regimes, such as the Stalinist purges or the cultural revolutions that aim to erase inconvenient truths. These historical connections are not just throwaway lines but integral to the movie's larger message about the fragility of personal identity and the terrifying consequences of systemic manipulation. The Easter eggs in Exterritorial are also deeply woven into the character dynamics, particularly the relationship between Sarah and Josh. Early in the film, when Sarah first encounters a woman who might hold the key to her past, the camera lingers on a book resting on a table, a children's book titled The Little Prince. The title of the book, and its association with a story about a young boy's quest for truth, offers a hint at the symbolic nature of Josh's role in the film. The Little Prince is a character who explores the world to uncover its hidden meanings, and Josh, much like the Little Prince, serves as a guide to Sarah in her journey towards self-realization. It's a subtle reference, one that would pass unnoticed by many, but it's a moment that hints at the deeper philosophical questions the film grapples with, questions about memory, identity, and the innocence of youth in the face of systemic control. Another subtle Easter egg involves the repeated imagery of birds in the film. Birds, often associated with freedom and escape, are a recurring visual motif. Early on, when Sarah is at her lowest point, a shot of a bird flying over the city is shown, accompanied by a melancholic piece of music. It's easy to dismiss it as just a passing moment, but as the film progresses, the image of birds becomes more significant. It mirrors Sarah's growing sense of escape from the grip of the consulate, representing her longing for liberation. The bird motif culminates in the final scenes of the film, where, in a moment of victory, Sarah releases a bird from a cage, symbolizing her breaking free from the constraints placed on her. This moment, though fleeting, brings an emotional payoff for attentive viewers who have followed the bird motif from the beginning. Additionally, Exterritorial is littered with moments that foreshadow its major twists and narrative turns. One of the more subtle pieces of foreshadowing occurs during a scene where Sarah and Irina are talking over coffee. Irina, in a moment of casual conversation, remarks, "Sometimes, the truth is worse than a lie." This line, spoken almost flippantly, serves as a key to the thematic foundation of the film. It's a warning, an acknowledgement that uncovering the truth comes with consequences that can be as destructive as the lies that have been told. This line foreshadows the devastating revelations Sarah will face in the second half of the film, setting up a narrative arc that is both emotional and philosophical. In the third act, the film cleverly subverts expectations when it comes to the character of Agent Conrad. Early on, Conrad is presented as a secondary antagonist, an agent of the consulate's oppressive system who stands in direct opposition to Sarah's goals. However, sharp-eyed viewers will notice that, in his first scene, Conrad is seen carrying a book titled The Unbearable Lightness of Being. This subtle reference to Milan Kundera's existential novel is a clever foreshadowing of Conrad's internal struggle, as he begins to question his role within the consulate. The book's themes of personal freedom, identity, and the search for meaning are mirrored in Conrad's arc. As the film progresses, Conrad's allegiance shifts, and his role evolves from that of an adversary to a reluctant ally, a subtle narrative twist that rewards those paying attention to his early characterization. Exterritorial is also filled with hidden callbacks to classic spy thrillers and conspiracy films. One of the most intriguing is the use of a specific color palette, shades of green and red, that harkens back to films like The Parallax View and The Conversation, where these colors often signified the presence of surveillance or the loss of personal agency. The green hue, often associated with electronic interference, subtly signals moments when Sarah is being watched or manipulated, while red hints at danger or a looming threat. The careful use of these colors adds a layer of tension, and those familiar with the genre will appreciate the homage to these classic works. Finally, the film's conclusion, in which the truth about Sarah's identity is revealed, contains a brilliant callback to an earlier moment. When Sarah first tries to flee the consulate, she encounters a locked door, one she can't open. It's a seemingly inconsequential obstacle at the time, but it becomes symbolic of Sarah's entrapment. At the film's climax, when Sarah finally confronts Grant, she finds herself in front of the same door, but this time, it's unlocked. It's an act of liberation, one that mirrors Sarah's final understanding of her situation. The door, which once kept her in, now stands open as a symbol of her ability to break free and step into a new reality, fully aware of who she is. These hidden details and Easter eggs are woven into the fabric of Exterritorial, adding depth and complexity to the film's narrative. They don't just exist for the sake of nostalgia or cleverness. They reinforce the film's themes and enhance the emotional experience. For those who are paying attention, these subtle references provide an extra layer of satisfaction, making Exterritorial not just a film to watch, but one to dissect and revisit. Behind the creation of Exterritorial lies a fascinating story that's filled with unexpected challenges, curious facts, and little-known stories that shaped the film into what it is today. The production process was anything but smooth, with numerous twists and turns that mirror the narrative's own unpredictable path. From casting decisions to on-set dramas, Exterritorial was as much a test of perseverance and creativity as it was a film about identity and control. One of the most peculiar aspects of the production began with the film's vision of reality itself. Distorted, uncertain, and ever-shifting. Director Damien Klein, known for his meticulous attention to detail, had a very specific vision of how he wanted Exterritorial to feel. He wanted the audience to experience what Sarah was going through. A constant sense of confusion, dislocation, and fragmentation. To achieve this, Klein took a unique approach to filming, opting for a fractured shooting schedule. Scenes were often shot out of sequence, creating a sense of confusion for both the cast and the crew. This was intentional, as Klein felt it would help the actors better embody the confusion their characters were experiencing. It also mirrored the narrative itself, which constantly subverted expectations. The set itself was one of the most complex and visually stunning aspects of the film. The consulate building, where much of the film takes place, was designed to be a symbol of control, bureaucracy, and isolation. To create a sense of claustrophobia, production designer Lana Cara went to great lengths to make sure the building's architecture was unerringly symmetrical. The walls were deliberately designed with mirrored surfaces and geometric patterns, creating a sense that Sarah was trapped in a world of reflections, her reality constantly distorted. However, what many don't know is that the entire consulate building was a physical set built from the ground up in a disused industrial warehouse. The set was so expansive that the crew had to create its own power grid to keep everything running. The building's sheer size and the complexity of the set design led to some production delays, but it ultimately paid off in creating the film's haunting atmosphere. The design of the set also had an unusual challenge. The production had to deal with a significant issue when it came to lighting. Since the film deals so much with perception and memory, Cline wanted to manipulate light in such a way that it would visually represent the theme of distorted truth. This led to a rather peculiar situation during filming, where lighting had to be adjusted in real time for each shot. In fact, the lighting team was so integral to the production that they were sometimes required to follow the actors around the set, adjusting lights on the fly to create the right effect. This constant, dynamic lighting setup led to a great deal of on-set chaos, with crew members having to work in high-pressure conditions just to ensure every shot was perfect. One of the most interesting elements of the production was the casting process, particularly when it came to the role of Sarah. Originally, Cline had envisioned a very different type of character for Sarah, someone older, more experienced, and with a more overtly stoic personality. However, when actress Mia Thompson was brought in for the role, Cline was struck by her raw, emotional vulnerability, something he felt was crucial to Sarah's journey. Thompson, who was relatively unknown at the time, had only a few small roles under her belt, but she possessed a natural ability to convey confusion and disorientation. In an interview, Cline admitted that it was Thompson's ability to make you feel her confusion in real time that sold him on the casting decision. He rewrote parts of the script to accommodate her unique interpretation of the character, adding an emotional depth that would later become a hallmark of the film. However, Thompson wasn't the first choice. Cline had originally been in talks with an A-list actress, whose name still remains a well-kept secret, but the negotiations fell through at the last minute. This left the production team scrambling to find a replacement. Many believe that this last-minute casting switch ended up being a blessing in disguise, as Mia Thompson's performance became one of the film's defining features. However, there was tension on set when the switch was made, with some crew members unsure whether a lesser-known actress could handle such a demanding role. But Thompson proved them wrong, giving one of the most critically acclaimed performances of her career. As for the character of Grant, the antagonist, the role was initially offered to several high-profile actors, including Michael Fassbender and Matt Damon. Both of them passed on the project, citing creative differences with Cline. The part eventually went to British actor Dominic West, whose chilling portrayal of Grant added an element of calm, calculated menace to the film. West's portrayal was a sharp contrast to the frantic energy of Sarah, creating a tense dynamic between the two characters. West himself described playing Grant as exhausting but exhilarating, explaining that he tried to approach the character with a quiet, almost dispassionate demeanor that would slowly unravel as the truth behind his actions came to light. His restrained performance was a deliberate choice, allowing the revelation of his character's true motivations to hit the audience with maximum impact. What many don't know is that West's performance almost didn't make it to the final cut. During post-production, Cline and the editors initially felt that Grant's character was too opaque, leaving too much ambiguity about his motivations. There were discussions about reshooting several key scenes to provide more clarity about Grant's backstory, but Cline ultimately decided to trust West's subtle approach. This decision sparked a great deal of debate among the crew, with some arguing that the character needed to be more explicitly defined for the audience to fully grasp his role. In the end, Cline's decision proved to be the right one, as Grant's inscrutable nature became one of the most compelling aspects of the film. The filming itself was not without its fair share of controversies, especially in the film's darker, more intense sequences. During the scene in which Sarah confronts the consulate's head of operations in a dimly lit, claustrophobic room, things took a shocking turn when Mia Thompson became overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. Thompson's performance in this scene was so raw and emotional that it led to her fainting from exhaustion during one of the takes. The incident led to an emergency pause in production as medical personnel were called to the set. This moment, however, was later incorporated into the film. What was originally scripted as a tense but controlled scene became a much more visceral moment. The raw emotion Thompson brought to the scene became a pivotal moment in the film's second half, and the production team decided to keep the unplanned fainting moment in the final cut. In addition to the production challenges, Exterritorial was not without its share of controversies once it was released. The film sparked debate among critics and audiences alike for its portrayal of government surveillance and memory manipulation, drawing comparisons to real-world issues like data privacy and the ethics of psychological manipulation. Some critics accused the film of being too political, while others praised it for raising important questions about individual autonomy and the dangers of unchecked governmental power. The film's ambiguity, especially regarding its stance on these issues, led to heated discussions in the media and among audiences. One of the most unexpected controversies arose from the film's ending, which left many viewers divided. Without giving too much away, the final moments of the film leave Sarah in a precarious, morally ambiguous situation that has no clear resolution. Some viewers hailed this as a bold artistic choice, while others felt it was an unsatisfying, frustrating conclusion to the narrative. The backlash was so intense that Klein eventually addressed the ending in interviews, explaining that the film was intentionally designed to leave questions unanswered, echoing the theme of uncertainty that runs throughout the story. Klein admitted that he wanted the audience to feel as though they were just as uncertain about the truth as Sarah, forcing them to confront their own perceptions of reality. Despite these controversies, Exterritorial proved to be a massive success, both critically and commercially. The film's blend of psychological tension, political intrigue, and philosophical exploration captured the imagination of audiences around the world. It became a cultural touchstone for those interested in the intersection of technology, identity, and control. The production, while fraught with challenges, resulted in a film that continues to resonate with viewers long after its release. The behind-the-scenes stories of Exterritorial reveal not only the struggles and triumphs of its cast and crew, but also the creative decisions that brought the film to life, from casting changes and set challenges to unexpected performances and post-production drama. The making of Exterritorial is as complex and layered as the narrative itself. It's a testament to the dedication of everyone involved that the final product is as captivating and thought-provoking as it is. An unexpected journey full of its own twists, revelations, and, of course, hidden truths. As we delve deeper into Exterritorial, it's clear that the film's greatest strength lies not only in its complex narrative and the incredible performances, but also in the key moments that leave a lasting emotional impact. These scenes are not merely plot devices. They serve as emotional touchstones that ground the audience in the world of Exterritorial, highlighting the core themes of identity, memory, and control. Every key moment in the film is charged with significance, adding layers of meaning that demand closer examination. These moments build toward a larger narrative exploration of self, perception, and what it means to be truly free. Through these critical moments, we experience the unraveling of the story's central character, Sarah, and gain a profound understanding of the world she inhabits. One of the most critical and emotionally powerful scenes in Exterritorial happens early on in the film, when Sarah is first introduced to the consulate. The scene begins innocuously enough, a routine visit to an official building, but as Sarah walks through the sterile, imposing halls, the viewer feels the unsettling tension mounting. This is where the film's visual style truly begins to shine. The angular architecture of the consulate's hallways, the constant play of light and shadow, and the cold, almost oppressive color palette mirror the emotional and psychological suffocation that Sarah is about to experience. In a pivotal moment, Sarah is confronted by the head of operations, Grant, whose casual demeanor belies the underlying malevolent force he represents. The dialogue exchanged between the two in this moment is deceptively simple, yet it's charged with an underlying tension, as if every word carries a weight far greater than it appears. The camera focuses on Sarah's face, capturing the slight twitch in her eye and the subtle quiver in her voice as she questions Grant about the nature of the operation. The scene does not simply introduce Grant as the antagonist. It introduces the central question of the film: Who can Sarah trust when nothing is as it seems? This moment sets the tone for the entire film, suggesting that the real threat isn't physical violence but the subtle erosion of autonomy and self-awareness. The moment is emotionally heavy, conveying a sense of isolation, as Sarah is trapped in a world that feels both alien and oppressive. Another key moment comes midway through the film when Sarah begins to uncover the true nature of the consulate's operations. This scene is a turning point in the narrative, one that transforms the film from a psychological thriller into something much more complex, an exploration of personal identity and manipulation. Sarah stumbles upon a hidden room deep within the consulate, a space filled with data and files, information that reveals the full extent of the consulate's surveillance and memory-altering experiments. This moment is crucial for several reasons. First, it marks Sarah's realization that her own memories may have been manipulated, an unsettling discovery that shatters her perception of reality. But more importantly, this scene embodies the film's central theme, the blurred line between truth and manipulation. The sense of betrayal Sarah feels in this moment is profound, and Mia Thompson's performance, which oscillates between desperation and confusion, makes the audience feel that same betrayal, further blurring the line between fiction and reality. The scene is further enhanced by the film's visual design, particularly the lighting. The room where Sarah discovers the truth is dimly lit, casting long, eerie shadows across the walls, creating a sense of claustrophobia and helplessness. This moment, along with the sound design, amplifies the disorientation Sarah feels as she pieces together the terrifying truth. The music swells, disjointed and fragmented, as though mirroring the fractured nature of Sarah's understanding. The sound isn't just a backdrop. It becomes an integral part of Sarah's internal experience, distorting the moment and amplifying the emotional weight of her discovery. It's as if the world she's known up to this point is beginning to crumble around her, and she's powerless to stop it. Later in the film, as Sarah uncovers more about Grant's role in the manipulation of her memories, there's another defining moment when the two characters have a face-to-face confrontation. This scene is not just a typical standoff. It's a battle of wills, of ideologies, and of perceptions. Grant, ever the calm and collected figure, attempts to convince Sarah that her memories are nothing more than constructs, flawed, subjective, and malleable. He argues that she has always been a pawn in a larger game, a game that she can no longer control. What's striking about this exchange is not just the chilling nature of Grant's words, but how his calm, calculated delivery contrasts with Sarah's raw, emotional outbursts. In this moment, the film underscores its central philosophical question. If our memories can be manipulated, are we still the same person? This moment encapsulates Sarah's struggle for agency, her refusal to accept that she is just a product of someone else's design. The emotional significance of this moment lies in Sarah's realization that her identity is being slowly stripped away. Throughout the film, she is portrayed as someone fighting to hold on to the pieces of her past, to her sense of self. But here, with Grant's cold, methodical approach, it becomes clear that Sarah is up against an opponent who sees her as little more than an object to be controlled and reprogrammed. It's a gut-wrenching realization, one that deeply resonates with the audience, making them question their own relationship with memory, identity, and personal agency. Perhaps the most emotionally intense moment in the film comes near the climax when Sarah is forced to confront her deepest fears in an emotionally charged scene of revelation. In the aftermath of everything she's discovered, Sarah is pushed to the brink. The scene takes place in a dimly lit interrogation room, where she faces the full weight of her own disintegrating sense of self. In this moment, Sarah is forced to relive some of her most painful memories, and as she does, the audience is given a glimpse of the emotional devastation that has been building throughout the film. The cinematography in this scene is particularly striking. The camera lingers on Sarah's face as she goes through this emotional breakdown, capturing every subtle twitch of her eye and the tremble of her lip. The use of close-ups in this moment makes the audience feel the intense weight of Sarah's psychological unraveling. The sound design again plays a crucial role here, as the ambient noise of the room fades, replaced by a faint, distorted echo of Sarah's voice as she questions everything she once believed about herself. This scene encapsulates the film's exploration of memory, trauma, and self-doubt, Sarah is no longer sure if her memories even belong to her. The audience, too, is caught up in her disorientation, forced to confront the fragility of our own identities. But what truly makes Exterritorial stand out is its ability to take these emotional moments and tie them seamlessly into the larger thematic concerns of the film. The film is not just about Sarah's personal journey. It's about the larger societal implications of memory manipulation and the loss of individual autonomy. These key moments, from Sarah's discovery of the consulate's true nature to her emotional breakdown in the interrogation room, are not just turning points in her character arc. They are reflections of the broader concerns the film is trying to address. They force the audience to question not just Sarah's reality, but their own as well. The final moments of the film are perhaps the most impactful of all. Without giving too much away, the ending leaves the audience with a sense of ambiguity that lingers long after the credits roll. The film ends on a note of unresolved tension, with Sarah's fate uncertain and her journey still incomplete. This is a deliberate choice, one that refuses to give the audience the closure they may expect. Instead, Exterritorial leaves them questioning everything they have just experienced. It's a moment that encapsulates the film's central theme of uncertainty, about memory, truth, and identity, and challenges the audience to reconcile the fragmented, often contradictory elements of the story. In the end, Exterritorial is a film that doesn't just tell a story. It demands that the audience engage with its themes on a deeply personal level. Through its carefully constructed key moments, the film forces viewers to question their own perceptions of reality and their place within a world that constantly shifts and changes. The emotional depth of the film, combined with its philosophical inquiries, makes Exterritorial a deeply resonant experience that sticks with you long after it ends. These moments, with their raw emotional impact and thematic significance, elevate the film from a mere thriller to a profound exploration of the human experience in an increasingly manipulated world. In Exterritorial, the success of its innovative narrative and emotionally charged plot can be traced back not only to its performances and story, but also to the creative and technical vision behind the scenes. From groundbreaking visual effects to nuanced cinematography, the film stands as a remarkable example of how technical achievements can elevate a story's thematic depth. It's a film that pushes boundaries, offering a cinematic experience that is as visually striking as it is emotionally resonant. The behind-the-scenes challenges and innovations faced during production only add to the complexity of the final product, with each choice made by the filmmakers contributing to the unique identity of the film. This marriage of artistry and technique is not just incidental. It is a driving force that propels Exterritorial into a realm of cinema rarely explored. At the heart of the film's creative genius is the work of its visionary director, who envisioned Exterritorial not simply as a thriller but as a meditation on identity and memory. From the very beginning, the director and cinematographer collaborated closely to establish a visual style that would immerse the audience in Sarah's fragmented world. The film's aesthetic, with its striking contrasts between light and shadow, creates an atmosphere of uncertainty, mirroring Sarah's internal turmoil. This visual approach was not born of accident but of meticulous planning and a desire to create a world that felt as unstable and disorienting as the protagonist's sense of self. One of the most notable features of the film is its use of long, unbroken shots that serve to build tension and force the viewer into the psyche of the characters. These lengthy takes were incredibly challenging to execute, especially given the complex choreography required for the actors to perform in such extended sequences. There's a breathtaking moment near the middle of the film when Sarah is followed through the consulate, weaving through hallways and rooms that slowly become more claustrophobic and confusing. The camera follows her every move, creating a sense of dread and anticipation as the viewer is pulled deeper into her reality. This sequence was filmed using a Steadicam, which allowed the crew to capture a fluid, seamless shot while navigating the tight corridors of the consulate. The use of the Steadicam became symbolic. Just as the camera follows Sarah relentlessly, so too does her sense of control slip further away. The technical feat of this scene isn't just impressive from a filmmaking standpoint. It serves the thematic backbone of the narrative. While the camera work and direction are central to the film's immersive quality, the visual effects are another significant achievement that contributes to the movie's distinctiveness. Exterritorial uses digital effects not as flashy spectacle, but as an extension of the film's exploration of memory manipulation. At various points, the film employs subtle, almost imperceptible effects to blur the line between what is real and what is fabricated in Sarah's mind. One such moment occurs when Sarah begins to experience strange flashes of her past. Moments of clarity interspersed with disturbing distortions of reality. These visual distortions, achieved through carefully timed and meticulously rendered CGI, play a crucial role in reinforcing the film's themes. The visual effects team worked tirelessly to develop a technique that would create these mind-bending images without breaking the immersion of the narrative. Rather than opting for a typical, overt use of special effects, the team chose to create surreal, dreamlike sequences that felt organic within the film's visual language. One of the more fascinating anecdotes about the production comes from the film's sound design. Much of the film's atmosphere is created through sound, particularly in scenes where the characters are alone or in moments of intense psychological distress. The sound team used a mixture of conventional sound design elements and experimental techniques to evoke a sense of isolation and uncertainty. For instance, during scenes when Sarah is being followed or monitored, the filmmakers used a technique known as sound perspective. This technique involves manipulating the volume and intensity of sounds to give the impression that the listener is being surrounded by noise, even when the visual cues suggest otherwise. This created a disorienting effect for the audience, enhancing the emotional weight of the scenes. One particularly challenging scene involved the use of distorted ambient sound to reflect Sarah's fractured sense of reality. The filmmakers decided to isolate certain sounds, such as the ticking of a clock or the hum of machinery, and manipulate them until they became distorted and warped. The ticking clock, for example, became louder and more irregular, symbolizing Sarah's growing anxiety and confusion. The team also used these techniques to create a sense of claustrophobia, especially in the scenes within the consulate. It's a subtle approach to sound design that enhances the narrative without ever feeling intrusive. The use of sound, in tandem with the visual effects and cinematography, plays a pivotal role in drawing the audience into Sarah's world. Beyond the technical accomplishments, the production itself was fraught with unique challenges, which added layers of complexity to the film's creation. One of the most significant hurdles was shooting the film on location in an actual government building that was used as a stand-in for the consulate. The crew faced numerous logistical issues, particularly when it came to creating the eerie, dystopian look of the consulate's interior. The building itself had a modern, sterile feel, but to transform it into the disorienting, oppressive environment necessary for the film, the design team had to completely rework the space. The production designer, working closely with the director and cinematographer, used color blocking, minimalistic furniture, and oppressive lighting to turn the building into a labyrinthine nightmare. Every room felt disconnected from the last, creating a sense of spatial disorientation that mirrored the characters' emotional states. Another production challenge came in the form of the weather. The film's climactic sequence takes place in a desolate outdoor location, and the crew had to contend with unexpected rain and wind. In what could have easily been a setback, the weather ended up enhancing the atmosphere of the scene, giving it a raw, chaotic energy that felt fitting for the culmination of Sarah's journey. The crew adapted to the conditions, using the rain to reflect the emotional storm brewing within Sarah, whose inner turmoil had finally reached a boiling point. The blending of these natural elements with the cinematography underscored the larger themes of the film. Sarah is battling not only a psychological war, but one that's played out against an indifferent and unpredictable world. The production faced further complications when it came to the film's intricate visual effects sequences, particularly in the later parts of the film, where Sarah's perception of reality becomes increasingly unreliable. The team had to develop entirely new visual effects techniques to create the disorienting imagery that would reflect Sarah's unraveling grasp on reality. In particular, they used a combination of practical and digital effects to create the illusion of physical spaces warping and distorting before the viewer's eyes. These sequences required careful planning and extensive post-production work, as the effects had to blend seamlessly into the live-action footage. Perhaps the most innovative technical achievement in the film is the use of memory fragmentation sequences. These sequences, which play a central role in the narrative, required the filmmakers to create a new type of visual language to convey the feeling of distorted memories. Working with the film's visual effects team, the director devised a technique where the camera would break apart the frame, segmenting the image into several smaller parts that would shift in time with the character's thoughts. The effect was both visually striking and narratively significant, serving as a powerful metaphor for the fractured nature of Sarah's memories. Each time the memory fragmentation effect appeared, the audience could feel the ground beneath Sarah shifting, as though she were no longer in control of her own mind. It's a brilliant technique that not only adds to the film's striking visuals, but also deepens the emotional impact of the story. The film's innovative technical achievements are woven so seamlessly into the story that they never feel out of place. From the intricate sound design to the cutting-edge visual effects, each creative decision has been carefully calibrated to enhance the viewer's experience, making Exterritorial more than just a film. It's an immersive journey into the psyche of its protagonist. Every technical element, from the cinematography to the special effects, plays a pivotal role in making the story feel real, immediate, and deeply personal. It's a testament to the filmmaker's vision that Exterritorial transcends its genre, becoming not only a thrilling narrative but a cinematic experience that lingers long after the final credits roll. In Exterritorial, the film's narrative reaches far beyond its surface-level thriller aspects, delving deep into themes of identity, memory, power, and the human condition. At its core, the movie is a reflection of the emotional and psychological toll that living under constant surveillance and manipulation can have on an individual. It becomes a poignant exploration of how personal identity can be warped, fractured, and lost when external forces continuously intervene, and how people struggle to maintain their sense of self in a world designed to control them. As we follow Sarah's journey, it's not just about her quest for truth, but a larger commentary on the ways in which society and the government shape and manipulate the personal lives of individuals. One of the most powerful themes embedded in Exterritorial is the fragility of memory and its role in shaping who we are. The film paints a haunting portrait of memory as something both deeply personal yet disturbingly malleable. Through Sarah's psychological unraveling, we witness how memories can be tampered with, erased, or reprogrammed, forcing us to question the very nature of our own recollections. The repeated visual motif of fragmented, disjointed images and distorted sounds becomes a visual representation of Sarah's breaking sense of reality. Memory, once a stable foundation upon which our identity rests, is shown to be incredibly unstable. The manipulation of memory, as depicted in the film, mirrors the experience of living in a world where personal autonomy is consistently challenged. The pervasive technology and surveillance in Sarah's world suggest that our memories and personal histories are no longer exclusively our own, a reflection of the growing surveillance culture in our own society, where even our most intimate moments are susceptible to external control. Sarah's struggle to reclaim her memory, and thus her identity, resonates with broader themes of autonomy and power. Exterritorial reflects the growing tension in the modern world between individual agency and the overwhelming control exercised by corporations and governments. Sarah's battle against the forces manipulating her is not just a personal conflict but a metaphor for the struggle we all face against systems that seek to control and reshape our identities. The film's dystopian atmosphere serves as a warning, urging viewers to consider the consequences of living in a world where surveillance, technology, and power are concentrated in the hands of the few. In this world, our sense of self becomes increasingly vulnerable, and the film suggests that reclaiming autonomy in such an environment may be a near-impossible task. This theme of power and control is closely tied to the film's exploration of the nature of truth and deception. Throughout Exterritorial, Sarah is forced to confront the unsettling reality that truth is not a fixed, unchangeable entity, but something that is malleable, subjective, and often obscured. The people around her, those in positions of power, are shown to manipulate the truth to suit their agendas, making it difficult for Sarah, and by extension the audience, to discern what is real and what has been fabricated. The film presents a world where the line between fact and fiction blurs, and the idea of an objective truth becomes increasingly elusive. This portrayal is not just a narrative device but a pointed commentary on the ways in which the truth can be distorted in the pursuit of power. In an era of fake news, misinformation, and digital manipulation, the film offers a chilling reflection on how the concept of truth has been fractured, leaving individuals to navigate a landscape where what they know and what they're told are often at odds. The idea of surveillance and its psychological impact is another potent theme explored in the film. Sarah's every move is watched, tracked, and controlled, and she finds herself increasingly isolated in a world where privacy is non-existent. The ever-present surveillance not only invades her physical space, but also permeates her mind, causing her to question her thoughts and actions. The film underscores the dehumanizing effects of constant surveillance, illustrating how it breeds paranoia and distrust. The anxiety that comes with the knowledge that one is always being watched is a central aspect of Sarah's experience, and it serves as a metaphor for the erosion of privacy in modern society. In an age where surveillance is more pervasive than ever, the film reflects on the emotional and psychological toll of living under constant observation. The power dynamics between the surveillors and the surveilled are stark, with the latter often reduced to mere pawns in a larger game of control and manipulation. This theme speaks directly to the audience, who, in the age of social media, government monitoring, and corporate data collection, are constantly aware of how much of their lives are on display. In addition to these broader societal themes, Exterritorial is rich with symbolic elements that enrich its narrative. One of the most prominent symbols in the film is the recurring imagery of doors and locked rooms. These symbols represent both the physical and psychological barriers that Sarah must overcome. The doors she encounters, whether in the consulate or in her memories, act as obstacles that separate her from the truth and her identity. As she tries to uncover the secrets of her past, she finds herself continually confronted with doors she cannot open and rooms she cannot enter. These barriers serve as a constant reminder of the control that is being exerted over her life. The locked rooms, in particular, symbolize the mental and emotional spaces that Sarah is unable to access. And as the film progresses, we see how breaking through these barriers becomes a metaphor for her journey towards self-realization and autonomy. Another symbolic element in Exterritorial is the use of mirrors, which appear at pivotal moments throughout the film. Mirrors in the film are not just reflective surfaces. They represent Sarah's fractured sense of self. As she grapples with her loss of memory, the mirrors become a means through which she attempts to piece together her identity, but each reflection she encounters is distorted. The mirrors act as a visual metaphor for Sarah's internal struggle, reflecting how the self can be broken, warped, and reassembled. They serve as a reminder that Sarah is constantly searching for who she truly is, but the more she searches, the more elusive the truth becomes. At its heart, Exterritorial is a meditation on the fragility of the human mind and the extent to which our memories and identities can be manipulated. It's a film that forces us to confront our own relationship with truth and perception, asking whether we can ever truly know who we are if we cannot trust the memories that define us. These questions are timeless, and they ensure that Exterritorial remains relevant as a cultural artifact. It's a film that will continue to provoke thought and spark debate long after its initial release. So, if you love this breakdown, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of cinema. Let's keep exploring movies together. Whether you're a fan of psychological thrillers or just someone who enjoys great storytelling, Exterritorial has something to offer everyone. With its stunning visuals, compelling performances, and thought-provoking themes, it's a film that stands as a modern classic, one that will continue to shape the way we think about memory, identity, and the nature of reality. This film is not just a story. It's an experience, one that will linger in your mind long after you've seen it. Keep watching, keep exploring, and let's continue to dive deeper into the world of cinema.